Don't Worry, Darling is a movie that I think at this point in time, every person on either the internet or even in real life to an extent has heard about. This movie has been the talk of the town more than any movie that I can think of, especially for more dramatic tabloid gossip reasons. And it almost felt like a lost art to talk about movies in that particular sense. But this film, directed by Olivia Wilde and starring a lot of really talented actors, including Florence Pugh and Harry Styles and Chris Pine and Gemma Chan, this movie is finally coming out. And I got a chance to see it just now, so without further ado, let's talk about it. In this movie, you follow a perfect utopia, which is this lovely suburban housing neighborhood that seems to be every single thing that you can dream of. Everyone seems to be happy over there, but it seems like the men are always going to work, the women are staying at home, they're doing your day-to-day chores, but then Alice, played by Pugh, she starts to notice something that seems off. And as the film progresses, she starts to doubt more and more the world that she's in, and eventually, I can't say anymore because it would lead to spoilers. This is a movie that I actually remember seeing the trailer for, and I was very interested because I liked Olivia Wilde's directorial debut that was Booksmart. I thought that was a very fun movie, very entertaining, and I really liked the work that she did there. That is a movie that is a teen comedy, though. We're going from that to a sci-fi drama thriller, which is totally different in every single respect. And for a sophomore effort, it's a massive jump to make for any director. And so naturally, I was pretty curious as to what it's going to be. And then her talks about it being somewhat of a, inspired by Matrix, Inception kind of film were genuinely quite interesting. And after all the drama that's gone on around this movie, especially in terms of social media discourse, having finally seen it, I can say for surety that the movie is okay. It's not exactly the worst thing ever. It's not the most, perfect movie I've ever seen by any means. It's very flawed, but it's got some good stuff in there. It's okay. From technical standpoint, this film wins across the board in pretty much every respect. It's beautiful to look at for starters. I mean, Matthew Libatique's cinematography is beyond stunning. There are some beautiful shots in here, and this genuinely looks incredible throughout. And whether it comes to the soundtrack, even the score and the production design, the costume design, which I'm sure is going to get some accolades, all of that is genuinely to be praised. The performances, everybody's pretty good. Florence Pugh never misses. I mean, at this point in time, I don't expect a bad performance from Florence Pugh. And once again, she is very good in this movie. Let's address the elephant in the room, that is Harry Styles. Now, a lot of people have been wondering how he's going to be in this movie. And there's been a lot of talk about this as well. He's okay. He's fine. He's actually not terrible. Again, something that seems to have gone on in conversations was he's going to be terrible. He's not. He's fine. He's okay. Chris Pine plays a pretty menacing guy. He's a villain, which is pretty fun. That's not a spoiler, by the way. I guess you assumed that from the trailer too. And when it comes to the supporting cast, like Gemma Chan, or whether it be Kate Berlant or Olivia Wilde herself, everyone's doing okay. Where the film falters, really, is in the storytelling. The first half of the movie, I won't lie to you, is actually quite intriguing. They're trying to set up everything that's happening, and things are getting weirder and weirder and weirder. And I was kind of thinking, okay, it's a little scattered. I mean, it doesn't seem to be, having the proper structure that I wish it did, but it does seem to be building to something that could be potentially very interesting. And the film has some very, useful, very interesting visuals. And the film has some very creative visuals that it plays around with in those moments in order to create those sequences and to accentuate the feeling that you're supposed to get in those. And just like Alice is lost in trying to figure out what the hell is going on, you feel similarly lost with her in those particular moments. So I do have to give praise to the fact that the movie manages to accomplish that feeling pretty well. I also think that the film in that first half manages to be somewhat unique at times. They're clearly trying to go for something that was very different than what I think most people were expecting, but it still maintains that sci-fi, somewhat slight sprinkles of horror here and there edge in order to keep the story flowing. However, once they start to reveal stuff, which I'm not going to go into because spoilers, that's where the film started to fall apart for me. And it's come to a point where certain decisions are made, especially towards the finale, that reframe the entire movie to a point where you're somewhat questioning everything that you've seen, and not necessarily in a good way. Like, the best way I can describe it is, after I walked out, the only reaction I had on my face was sort of like, what? Like, that's what we're doing? Okay. It's one of those things which I'm not really sure how people are going to respond to it. My audience seem to be into it for the most part, but there seem to be a lot of eyebrows raised at some of the things that it finally ends up doing. But there are some well-directed moments in here throughout. Like I said, it's a big jump for any director to go from something that was much simpler, like a high school teen comedy, to something like this. But I think there are some sequences that are directed very creatively. There's a particular chase sequence that was pretty niftily done and wonderfully scored too, and shot. So there are things to enjoy in Don't Worry Darling. It's just a very flawed and scatterbrained movie that really needed some time to put itself together, rather than just kind of come full force, guns blazing at you. And I think it could have used a few more revisions. There's a lot of really great creative ideas at play over here. And like I said, there's a lot of great performances and a lot of great stuff going on in order to make those things work. It needed some more time to mull over and to basically figure itself out, figure out its identity. That being said, I'm not opposed to seeing anything else Olivia Wilde does down the line. I am curious to see what else she can do. She seems like a very good director still, and I think there is potential in more work from her going forward. But this is just not particularly great a film. However, I'm also coming at this as the film. I realize there's a lot of people going into it with these thoughts because of all the conversations that have gone on around it and the discourse. I'm not gonna let that judge a film for me though. Like, that's its own thing, and it's not even my wheelhouse. I specifically subscribe to the idea of just watching a movie rather than critiquing the discourse around a movie, or letting that impede my judgment on a film. Because that's not the film. At the end of the day, I want to see what the cast and crew have put together on the screen. At the end of the day, that's what you're judging. And if that doesn't work, then that's the conversation really to be had. I'm going to give Don't Worry Darling a 6 out of 10. It's out in theaters this weekend, so if you guys get a chance to check it out, let me know what you guys think. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of opinions about this movie and from a lot of different people, so I'm curious what you're going to make of certain decisions that they make, especially towards, like I said, the last half of the movie, especially the last act. But regardless, I don't know. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Look forward to more reviews very soon. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the movies.